Don't forget. There we go. And welcome to our the second part of our activation of the pineal gland class. And we're very happy to have you today. Thank you, everyone who's here live. Thanks to everyone who's listening on the recording. As I said before we started recording, we will be doing a little bit of review because some of you weren't here or haven't seen the first part of the class from a couple weeks ago. And it's important that you understand a little bit of why we're doing what we're doing and how the practice affects this very, probably the most sophisticated piece of biotech that exists in the world, as far as I'm concerned. This little tiny pea-sized pine cone shape gland in the center top of our brain, the pineal gland, is it's really such a gift to us. And I hope that once you finish this class that you will go back in the recordings and listen and practice and practice and practice, because the more you do some of the practices that we're going to be going over to help clear it, take care of it, and enhance it, the more able you are to cue into your own psi abilities and what I like to call the quantum samurai superpowers. So whether you're already really accomplished with, say, energy work, Reiki, uh, telepathy, intuitive stuff, psychic stuff. Maybe you levitate. I don't know. Maybe you bilocate. It's still really good information to come in and just review. And also, if you have any thoughts or anything that you would like to interject during the conversation, please do let me know. Again, you can type it in the chat. Once I get started, I don't look at the chat much. I apologize, but you can raise your hand or you can just blurt out. Like I said, since we just have a few people live today, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, as long as you don't have a bulldozer going outside your window or something that might disrupt this. But so um, to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way, yes, right now it's okay to either mute or unmute yourself because we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. And then after that, we're going to go into a little bit more of the advanced educational piece, where I'm going to describe not just what the pineal gland does and why we want to take care of it, but actually how to take care of it, how to get it into its prime operating ability, and then what we want to use it for. It has many uses, both on the physical plane in your body and in the other layers of your being, in your galactic self, if you will, your cosmic self. Um, and then we're going to have a little kind of question and answer. And then we'll do an exercise with each other, which I think you'll find very fun. And we'll just see where you are today in that moment, in connecting with your cosmic antenna, as I like to call it. The pineal gland is actually kind of your big radio tower that connects you to the cosmos, to the all it is. Um, and we'll do that little exercise. Then we'll take a comfort break of 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how we're going on time. Then we'll come back and do the full practice, which will include some breathing, some breath work, which is very important. And you'll understand why if you're new to the class after we go through the educational piece. So we're going to do some breath work with visualization, with maybe even some vocalization. All of these things will help tune your antenna, if you will. And it'll help kind of break up any of the stuff that might cause static. Okay, so we'll do that practice, and immediately we broke it in half last class, where we did the practice, then I gave the comfort break. We're going to take comfort break first, then we're going to do the practice and go immediately into the guided portion of the class, the quantum meditation, quantum hypnosis type of class, where we're going to program ourselves to really get in touch with that piece of biotechnology within our own beings. We're going to get it into prime working condition from an energetic perspective, and then we are going to travel and see what we can see with it. We're going to, whatever happens will be your own experience. We're going to be in the stillness after a while, and then we'll come back. And before we do anything else, we're going to do the exercise, the same exercise with one extra variable right after we come back, and see what the difference was before and after the practice. And then we'll have a good deal of discussion afterwards, depending on how long you guys want to go. I know that this is probably one of the busiest weekends of the year for most of you, and I will not keep you late. We may even finish early, depending on how long we go with questions and answers and so forth. But believe me, you will get exactly what you need in this class. And then we'll talk about why it's going to be very beneficial to be doing this practice and the things that help it along for occasions like what's going to happen on Monday, which is the solstice. For you folks down under, it's your summer solstice, right? For us, it's winter solstice. So for you, it's the longest day of the year. For us in the northern hemisphere, it's the shortest day of the year. And that's not as important as the fact as it is a point in time when we're measuring human time where everything kind of comes to a pause, where it's like the pause between the inhale and the exhale when we're doing our breath work. It is the place where we can literally set an intention and propel it into the universe, the YO universe, and let it go where it will have the greatest impact. The most positive aspects will happen with it. I'm sure most of you who are on here are already know that it's not just the solstice. This date is a very important astrological and astronomical date where we're having a grand conjunction. Jupiter and Saturn are coming so close that they're going to look like a giant star. Some people say that's what the Star of Bethlehem was back in the day, because that happened around the time that we have recorded, the Christmas story. But it wasn't a star, it was this. It's just so bright. Why is that significant? Well, it's significant because everything out there behind me and the stars there, is symbolic of everything in here, in your astral galaxy, your astral solar system, your astral universe. It is just a reflection, just as everything around you in your physical world is a reflection of what is happening in here. Well, that symbology is happening out there as a reminder of where you can go and what you can do with it. So I'm not going to give you a class on the Grand Conjunction. We're actually having an event on that morning, and I'll tell you about that at the end. But basically, we want to prepare our minds, our bodies, our spirits all the time to be as coherent to the divine source within us as possible, so that we can be more mindful about how we create our reality, right? But when we have something that is that symbolically important happening, Jupiter and Saturn, one is the expansiveness. Jupiter is expansion. It is abundance. It is gigantic energy. And Saturn is about patience, about being mindful, about maybe even stopping and taking a breath every once in a while. So when these two things come together, there's a transformational aspect that's going to be happening. That's the message. So, this little tiny pea-sized thing inside your head is going to help you connect with your internal universe so that your external universe and internal will be coherent, and you should be able to make some things happen in your life, and that you set an intention for. So remarkably though, because we do live in this age of the internet and the age of Aquarius just symbolically happened today. All this time we've been waiting for the age of Aquarius. We just went into it today. So it's very close to that grand conjunction. Age of Aquarius, it sounds all woo woo and hippie and all that, but really what it's about 200 years of us becoming more identified with how we get information across to one another, how we use information, how we use, how we actually, how do I want to say, transmit it over the airwaves. Aquarius is an air sign. So all this stuff is coming into play. It's very remarkable time and it can get really confusing. But let's just suffice to say, we're in a very exciting time for humanity. Humanity is transcending its physical kind of gross body self. We've learned all the lessons we were going to learn here. We want to move back on into the higher levels of our being. And so this practice is going to be really great in helping to propel that energy if you choose to with intent in the next few days, the next few weeks, the next few months. What's happening, really what started happening with the full solar eclipse this week, another symbolized thing, is it's 6 months of pushing forward with new stuff, with really, we let go of all the old stuff. Now we have free energy inside of us to make new, more remarkably positive things happen. So let's get back to the pineal gland. So the first, I want to ask for those of you who did the class, whether live or by recording, do you have any questions or comments about the class or about the practice? Have you been practicing? What were your observations? I'd really love to hear some of that. If any of you would be brave enough to speak up, that would be great.
I enjoyed the class, even though it was recorded. A couple of the practices we actually do in yoga, so it was familiar, so that was good. Others not so much, but that was good too. It was something to learn. So that, thank you.
You're so welcome, Gail.
Feel very calm.
Good. Thank you. Well, you're right in saying it's familiar and some of it comes from yoga. In fact, I believe all of this comes from yoga. I'm a lifelong yogi, and I will say that no matter what branch of yoga you practice, if you're practicing with a teacher who actually offers the real deal, no matter whether it's gentle or vibrant or breath oriented or body oriented, meditation oriented, it all comes from the same kind of source, which was just ancient wisdom about how to stay connected in this reality to the grander reality of who we are. That's what it is. It's a spiritual science. It's not it's just a science for life. But it does include, for me, real yoga. I've studied and taught and practiced a lot of the different types over my lifetime. But for me, authentic yoga incorporates things like the breath, like meditation, like self-introspection, like exploration, studying other things, mantra, using sound technology. Okay. And so these things are comprehensive science. So I'm glad that you recognize that. And for those of you who aren't yogis or who don't practice yoga, don't freak out about it. It's all just a life science. All of this, no matter what we call it, is just a life science. Jesse, you have your hand raised. How can I help you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. That was my question, right? What you said afterwards about those who don't practice any yoga or any type of meditation. That was one of my questions. What happens to those that never really practiced any yoga or meditation or had any, not even religious, excuse my children in the background,
Okay.
um, any practice at all. What happens there when a person has experiences or visions or dreams or hears? How does that come about when you
Well,
don't have?
right. No, it's a wonderful question. And it's a question I've asked my guru, my teachers over the decades. I've looked for answers in books and all of this stuff. And basically, the answer I keep getting is we all are working towards the same goal, which is coming back into coherence with the grander part of ourselves, because we are all one. Quantum universe is literally one holographic entity, if you will. We are all like cells in one body, and certain cells in your body have a certain purpose and everything, but they have some general likenesses, like they're made up of molecules and atoms and so forth, and they work chemically with different things. So just because your cell might not have experienced or been exposed to or even incorporated into itself certain aspects, such as these practices, it is still going to be informed by the bigger body at all times. And it will be informing the bigger body from its perspective. Each one of us is a facet or a cell of this body. So the answer that I keep getting, and the answer that I give now, because I get this question a lot, is there is no one way to do this. You will always have access to the greater part of reality, to the big self, the all that is, the divine, God, whatever you want to call that, supreme being, source. You have access always. But each of you, because your unique cells within this body may have a certain way that you're more open to. You might, like a cell, like certain cells have receptor sites that are more aligned with certain chemical reactions than others. Maybe you're one of those cells who doesn't care about doing yoga practice or breath work or chanting or anything. You just, you know, take a nap and you have visions, or you walk out under a starry sky and you have an interaction with a non physical being, right? It's just, we're all so unique that we can have different paths that go up the same mountain, and we can all get to the top of that mountain and have a beautiful experience of the oneness of life, which is what this is all about. But for me, what I'm trying to do is to teach some things that I know have been proven, not just in my lifetime or even in the last couple hundred years, but over since recorded time, since history was history here on this planet, that are very helpful, especially if you are blocked by many other things in life. These things are really helpful tools to unlock some of that perspective and perception. Um, you know, how can I put this? Um, I only expose you to these things, and if they resonate, whether now or 30 years from now, maybe it doesn't resonate at all for some of you. 30 years from now, if you still have a way to listen to this recording, you listen to it, go, oh, that sounds kind of interesting now. It didn't make sense when she was telling it back then, or I was too busy, or I forgot about it. But now you try it 30 years from now, and all of a sudden, boom, you're just like having all these experiences, right? But most of you who are on this class right now that I'm looking at have had these experiences or something like them, or something that is not part of this physical reality that maybe you don't understand, but you really are interested by, just because it's within all of us. We carry that information in our DNA. It's part of our wiring. And part of the things that I'm working towards with this class is to help you turn the little switches back on in the DNA that have been turned off for one reason or another. Um, you can do it that way, but you don't have to do it that way. And let me just say that you don't have to do anything to be connected to this stuff other than believe. If you want to go the quick route, just believe that you have all these powers, if you will, and act like you do and live your life like you do and trust that you do, and you do. Most of these things are just to help you clean out, wipe off all the mud that have been attracted to the cells, the lens of your third eye, if you will, kind of clouded it up. And now you're able to see a little bit better and go, oh, this is why I want to do some of these things, or this is why I want to at least find a way to access it. Okay? Does that help? Cool, thanks. Anybody else have anything to say about that, or any other questions?
I've had, um, I've had some fantastic nights sleep since I started the exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the deepest, most profound sleeps I can remember,
Mm-hmm.
and the sense of a shift and connectedness has increased, and I've the number and quality of synchronicities have increased.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I've set up my space under a copper pyramid. I wonder if you have any advice about a copper pyramid other than to sit underneath it, and how to use one, or is there any way to use that facilitates having one, or should one just sit there and carry on as normal?
Well,
Uh,
number one, thank you for giving me your feedback on the how the practice seems to be affecting you. I don't think, by the way, it's just the practice. I think it is the energetic state that our whole planet, in really our whole system, is going through right now. And as a human collective, we are going through a very accelerated, intense state of change, transformation. I like to call it transformation because it sounds more positive than we're going through another change. But thank you for saying that, because I know that when I don't, and this is just for me, again, this practice, what I'm teaching you is part of my personal practice. And I'm teaching it because I know that it works, because the people who taught it to me and who practice it also are examples of it working. And over the millennia, we've been shown that it works. But I'm glad you bring it up, because on the days that maybe I make up that I don't have time to do it, or I get, I'm human too, and I get pulled into all of the minutia of the day, all the stimulation, all of the craziness. When I don't stay consciously coherent in this way, things just get a little harder to deal with. They are emotionally hard to deal with. I've run into more obstacles. I have more confusion. And to bear something to what you said, I don't sleep well either. But when I do this practice, I sleep well and I dream well. I hate to use the word dream because it sounds like it's not real, but it's real as real can get. I also practice out of body experience, which I kind of clump in there to the dream work. And it's always very vivid and very remarkable. So, if you're starting to have those little drops of nectar that we've been talking about through this practice, one of the drops of nectar is having great sleep and good dreams. It'll start leaking into and manifesting as a crystallized form or forms in your physical life, i.e., things will get easier to understand, or you'll have more ease and grace in moving about through your day. People won't seem so irritating. They're probably doing the same thing they've always done, but they're not affecting you anymore because you're not resonant with it, right? So thank you for bringing that up. And did you want to share anything about what you've been getting in your experiences, or um,
Yeah. Well, I've been sort of working on channeling recently. Well, for quite a while, this year, on and off, and trying to refine that. And I'm almost getting like it. I'm getting closer to tuning in some in communication. Just this sort of sorts of buzzing and noises going on, which are going up and down in pitch. And I did hear an inner voice just said to me at work the other day. It just said, "Look at your phone," and I looked at it, and it had 1212 on it. But it's just the way it happened. And then a few minutes later, I just was doing something else, but I just pulled it out of my pocket, and it said 1221. And then a brand new client who said she just picked me out of a book came to see me, and we started talking, and she was a psychic, and and we talked about things, and I said, "Oh, I've been trying to channel. I almost heard a little voice quite clearly today telling me to look at the time, and it was 12:12." And she said, "Oh, yeah, I smiled today because I looked at the time and it was 12:12, and then shortly after I looked again and it was 12:21." And she said it made me laugh. And I said, "Yes, it made me laugh as well." And it's like two people had never met each other, had this same experience on the same day, and had come together. And she was all about ascension, psychism, and we were just chatting away. It was just like absolutely amazing connection. But a lot of stuff like that has been snowballing, that it's all accelerating, and that this community is forming, these connections between like-minded, not like people who are at the same place or near the same place, and it's all building up quite nicely. I feel like a sense of family, even though I barely know some of these people. When I meet them, I feel like I really know them,
yes.
And we're very, very close indeed.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm quietly happy, about the way it's all going, and I don't seem to feel any stress or panic or worry about the state of the world. It doesn't seem to affect me. It doesn't. I don't worry about it at all, which some people close to me find strange. Yeah.
They might not before too long, because this is the way that we're moving. I've been told this. Um, Most of you know I channel, and I channel pretty much anybody who wants to come in, but the main group is the star teachers, and they are constantly saying, "This is how we go. This is how we do it." And this is why I'm so passionate and so dedicated to doing this work and getting this information out there, because they say this is how we do it. We start here, and we incorporate our consciousness into being more aware, self-aware, and then aware of how we're affecting the world and what we do. And through this mindfulness and through this taking time to be quiet and allow the information to come to us without us forcing it, this is how we kind of jump over that threshold to that next place. Or I don't want to say the next place, I just want to say to the place that is not the little bitty crude science lab that we've been in for a while here in our focus. We exist everywhere all at once all the time, on all these different layers of being, but this is where our main focus has been for a while, just because we decided it was going to be. But we're through with it, and we are starting to get that bleed through from our other levels of our being, and that telling us, there's something more. That's why we have this longing for something more. That's why we are constantly working to make the world better, or we long to have things be better in our world, because we know they are on other levels. um, so there's a bleed through, if you will, it's not so much that you're starting to or will be channeling other beings. They're really other facets of yourself who just are in a higher level of perspective, and they're giving you little spoon feeding you little bits of information. And I have to give one little comment on something you said about you and this new friend, is that you laughed. This experience made you laugh, that you had the same experience on the same day. The laughter is part of sound technology. So don't disregard laughter. If you are having a day where everything is just, ugh, it's just going wrong, or you're in pain, or you can't make yourself do a practice, we have these little machines called televisions or computers or smartphones that you can actually call up, even a 2-minute funny video or a funny movie. And I encourage you to sit down and watch that, or go see a friend who makes you laugh, or connect with somebody on the phone who makes you laugh, or go into yourself and have a memory about something funny. Laughter is part of the sound technology. It's part of the breath work. In fact, several years ago when I had a healing center, we had a dedicated laughter yoga class once a week, and it was hilarious. And we had so many breakthroughs with people in that class, even bigger than the breakthroughs we had in some of these other more, dedicated mindfulness classes and everything, because you break up that stagnant energy. And we're going to talk about breaking up that stagnant energy as a way to cleanse and decalcify the pineal gland pretty soon too. So thank you for that, Andy. Rhonda had her hand up. Rhonda, did you want to say something? And you have to unmute.
Absolutely. And this, you've touched on a few of these points just recently. I love the synchronicity of the universe, if you will.
I do too.
You
It's so
are
much fun,
awesome.
isn't it?
Yes, it is. And this may be something more for a private, but I'm going to kind of jump in.
Okay.
As you talk about our multidimensional selves, ourselves on other planes, and what we're channeling is just ourself, basically from another reality.
Mm-hmm.
I have landed in this particular reality from a cry from one of my selves to help. I know that when we walk in and embody this intelligence, then it allows us to alter our DNA, which raises our frequency and helps the planet and those others around us. I'm looking, my question is, in this pineal gland opening, as you know, I'm aware of multi-dimensions of myself.
Oh, yeah.
And this particular one is so challenging. Is there a way, and maybe it's, like I said, this may be more for a private, but with this pineal gland, I know this is one of the keys in the DNA upgrades, if you will.
Yeah.
And the star teachers that you channel help with that so immensely.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to work more on being able to access that higher self and not be so consumed by the environment of the one that I'm focusing on as the observer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know from all my studies, which I know you're familiar with,
Oh, yes.
that this is just one of the focal points.
Yep.
And this cry for help, for me to come in at this point, it's just almost devastating to see the degree that this entity has fallen, but also in knowing the ecstasy that's the other beings.
Mm-hmm.
How do we bring those all, like you were talking about, into a conscious coherence? And I think this pineal gland work, this DNA work that you're doing, is a huge key in helping us integrate all these multidimensional selves so that it's not so overwhelming and feeling consuming.
Right. Well, you use the word just now, integration. integration, coherency, um, becoming more of a holistic, entity, to use another one of your words. That is the key to this. And the way that the way I'm told that we do it, and the way that I am personally aware that works the best, is to start out first and foremost by not judging which one of those parts of your being is better or worse. Okay, you use the words, this one has, you were kind of surprised at how low this one had followed or fallen, right? But it's there is really, we talk about low frequency and high frequency, or positive and negative, good and bad, whatever. Really, it's all, again, it's all parts of a whole, and they're all necessary, and they're
Yes, and
all
there's
beautiful, and they all have purpose. um But, if all you do is stare at the scab on your knee and pick at it and pick at it and pick at it, and it causes more pain, it keeps bleeding, keeps scabbing over, and you don't take care of the rest of the body, if we're just talking about the physical body, pretty soon the physical body is just going to be like, ugh, it's going to be hard to get up and learn how to walk around again if all you do is focus on that little scab on your knee. So, the way we do this is to become more loving towards not just the one that we are wanting to move toward in our focus, but allowing the one that we are trying to ascend, if you will,
yes, bingo. Yes,
right? Allowing that one to exist and run its course the way that it's running its course. And that's hard. I have great compassion and empathy for you, because how do we see that in our outer life? You're more masterful than most of us, because you're actually looking at you and saying, oh, I don't like how far that one has fallen. The way most of us do it is we look outside ourselves and go, oh, that person, man, aren't they a mess, or aren't they evil, or aren't they, boy, they have really fallen from grace, right? And we project what we're feeling about our inner selves in this place onto those other beings, because they're our reflection and they're helping us to see. So it doesn't matter how you're seeing it, whether you're seeing it in yourself or you're seeing it in others, which is giving you a message about yourself, if you're open to that.
well, I also understand that every person in our reality is someone that we actually live at one of those dimensional
We do.
existences.
Thank you for bringing that up. Here's a big surprise for some people who'll be listening this, probably not to any of you, but it was a big surprise when I had the realization. I was about 14 or so when I had it, and it freaked me out so badly that I just like didn't want to do anything for a while. Is that we, because of the quantum nature of creation, because of quantum entanglement, we literally are living each one of those lives.
Yes, absolutely. And I,
All of them, and all the ones we have no knowledge of, and all the ones we, you know, are aware of or not aware of. We are all those beings. We're the cat at your feet, we're the rock in your driveway, we're the asteroid 5 trillion light years away, and we're that light beam or an energy wave in a dimension that we can't even imagine. We're all those things. So when you really truly realize that, you cannot, it becomes more and more difficult to judge and be angry with, or want to do harm to someone else, right? And we're all at different levels at that. And believe me, we're all at different levels of that many times every day. I am. I can be all holy and divine and in Lakesh to everyone and namaste. But when it comes right down to it, when that lady who is texting on her phone going 80 miles an hour and cuts in front of me on the highway and almost kills 4 other cars full of people, does that, my first reaction most often is, "You stupid emmer effer," you know?
I do know, but
You know?
also in that, what I'm seeing is I have such compassion and empathy for the others in my life, which has really been narrowed because it's kind of like I woke up to this potential, this place,
Mhm.
and it's like this body's different. I mean, it's just a different thing. But when you look at these others around you, my first question is, okay, how are they, what's I'm my thing is, I've always told people, I'm not on your side of the skin. You have to choose what works for you in your life, and I'm here to guide you to
Mhm.
ask the questions that are going to help you get there.
Yeah.
But what happened is I look at my immediate surroundings and I say, how would I want to be treated in that situation? Because actually saying how would I want to be means how do I treat myself in this situation?
Yes.
And
Perfect. Yeah.
anyway, I don't mean to derail. I
No,
think this
you're
is really
not. This is
related
all
to
part
the
of it.
pineal and the DNA, being able to consciously change our DNA.
Yes.
And I believe that we do that because the higher, if you want to call it higher, the alternate self that we've cried out for help for, and all of a sudden now the focus lens is right here on this reality.
Mhm.
It's it's saying, okay, I'm really stuck. Help me get out of it,
Mhm.
and not being immersed in the physicality of it and remembering the multidimensionality of
Yeah, bingo. I mean, really, what I've been told and what I know for myself, and you guys don't have to buy into what I'm saying, but this is what I know true to myself is that we came into this focus of reality with the understanding we constructed the whole thing ourselves, this little science lab. And part of the construct was that we would not remember or have a great connection for a while with the rest of our being so that we could have a valid experience of uh, this dimensional state where we actually feel things physically and mentally and emotionally. And I'm not saying other frequencies don't, but in this place we have a physical vessel, and that physical vessel is interacting with other physicality around us, and it causes a whole set of experiments to happen. Well, um, we had a, I like to say we embedded a safe word to the experiment. Okay, like when you're in wrestling and you want to tap out, you either tap the floor, you say uncle or give or tap or whatever, and the opponent lets up. You have this agreement. You have a safe word. Well, our safe word was, it's not a word, it's a feeling state. It's, I'm finished. I'm complete. Okay, I'm complete.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
that's
complete.
that's it.
So when you have that feeling of I'm complete, but you still haven't, the out, I don't want to say the outer, the other part of yourself has not bled through enough
Mhm.
to give you the information on how to complete the experiment and
Yes,
jump over that
and move on.
threshold. It's where we are now. Many of us are frustrated. We know there's something better, right? We've been saying it for thousands of years. I know there's something better than just this, i.e., we made up constructs like heaven or nirvana or utopia or whatever, or higher frequency. But we know that it's there, but we haven't allowed ourselves to clear enough the mud off of our lens of perspective to be able to see how to do it. That's what this practice does. So to go back to Jesse's question about, do we have to do this? No, you don't have to do this. You eventually, I mean, we all eventually change our perspective to something else because that's how we are. But um, I'm sorry, I'm a double Aries and I'm impatient and I am fed up with it. And so I'm going to do everything I can to speed the process up and to really clean that lens off fast. So that's what I've been doing this lifetime and with these practices. And I can tell you it helps because when you can go into a place of stillness, of coherency, and the pineal gland being a kind of an off on switch for the fine tuning of the receptive part of that biomechanism that will help bring in the information to help us know how to do it. You know, I'm all in. I want to know how to do that. And, do I get tired of washing the lens every day? Sure. Do I want to do it every day? Heck no. Most mornings when I get up, I have a conversation with myself at some point before I start making up 1,000 excuses of why I don't want to go in and sit and do my practice. Most times these days, my higher self wins and says, remember, we're training the puppy to sit, settle, and stay. And when you sit, settle, and stay long enough, and you get rid of all that agitation, then you get the treat. And the treat is you start to feel the connection to the bigger part of yourself, i.e., forgive me, we go into unity consciousness. And I don't know if I mentioned this to some of you the last time or in private, but I had the most compelling unity consciousness experience of my life just a few weeks ago. And now every time I do my practice, I go there and beyond. So I've somehow gone into another level. And I truly believe that we're here today having this conversation with each other because of that experience. That on the carrier wave of my words and my energy, you are now getting some of those switches turned on just by virtue of getting together in this class with each other.
It absolutely is true. And what you just said was so impactful, because part of my feeling with this focal point, if you will, is the isolation part. But there's that divine in me that knows, wait, I mean, honestly, to put a time frame on it, that I feel like I've dropped in within the past month in a body that is not a body I remember. It's not the connected consciousness that I recall, but this is the one that was needing my focus, if you will. And
yeah,
anyway,
it's
I
a
don't
part
want
of
to.
the lens that needed cleaned more. That's all.
Well, you
Some
got
people
that right.
do.
So I'm going to quit talking and get
Okay.
on with our class, because I didn't want to derail people. And thank you so much, Debs. This has been very impactful.
Thank you. And we'll get into more of this. I've been told we'll get into more of this on Monday when the Star Teachers do their thing. If any of you are able to come on, it'll be at 9 Central Time, US time. So I'll post that thing again, but that'll be a place where you can interact with them live and they can give probably a much better answer than I can as a human. Jesse, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something else before we move on?
I just wanted to say that I wasn't I didn't want to wasn't sure if you maybe misinterpreted my question about as to why we had to. The reason I was asking is because there's myself self that I've never practiced. That's why I asked, because I've never practiced anything. And a lot of those things just popped out of nowhere for me. So this is why I'm here. And that's why I meant the question is like, how does that happen to someone who never really did anything? But not to question as to why we do it. This is why I'm here, because I really like to know how to do that without it happening out of nowhere.
Yeah, random. That's thank you for that, because we all have this ability, but because we're not as consciously coherent with our higher selves as we'd like to be, these things are random. The little bleed through messages are random. The experiences. I mean, come on. One of my earliest memories as a child was having, you know, interaction with what I now know were ET beings. And I was maybe 3 years old, and I'm pretty sure it was all my life. But that one is I deeply remember that. Had I been doing any practices then, and I had a multi-dimensional life. I literally had another family that I lived with, interwoven dimensionally with my regular human family life. And I thought everybody lived that way. And then I definitely found out they didn't. But did I get that experience by doing practices? Not in this lifetime. No, I was too little. But it was more random. Now I have more, I don't like to say control, but I'm more consciously aware of how to connect with those things than I was when I was a little child. So that's where you are right now. And just because you're at a certain chronological age, don't get upset. And those of you who are listening to this at another time and you're not on this live class, but you're having these thoughts, don't despair, because it can happen in an instant. You can have full memory and, upgrade, downloads, whatever you want to call it, of your being in an instant. Sometimes I've seen it happen. I'm jealous of people who have that, actually, but I've had some students who've had that happen, and where they had absolutely no connection to any of this stuff, came on a whim to one class, and it just kind of unlocked a little question or something in their mind, and the next day they had more superpowers than I ever had. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, why is that? Because we've always had them. You just unlock the right key. So that's it. That's it. Um, Kelly, did you have your hand up, darling? Okay, and if not, that's okay. Did anyone else have anything else to share or anything before we move into? Ron, did you have something?
So, yeah, I guess one of the things that I'm finding, because I'm trying to be disciplined enough to every day work on the exercise and the practice. And so one of the things that I'm finding is I kind of have spiritual ADHD.
Yeah, don't we all?
And it's just like it's like you're trying to, and maybe that's the problem, is trying to focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and then all of a sudden all these different things, and something that you hadn't thought about, or something that you got to buy at groceries, or
Oh,
any
yeah.
number of different things that are out there. And so it's kind of funny. The one aspect that I think is really important, and you touched on that with laughter, is really not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Either. That's
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people do, and you're just straining, and to to get to a certain place, and you're never going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you got to let go to get there. And so, I mean, that's one of the things I find is kind of a challenge, and I kind of walk through it. And like I said, I rather than getting too frustrated, I kind of chuckle at myself, and then get back in the practice of it. But so that's just as an observation. One of the things I'm noting about myself and a relationship.
Awesome. Having a great sense of humor about your experience and your foibles as a human being in the third dimensional earth plane is key to gaining more mindfulness. And more mindfulness is key to having these experiences. I mean, to reconnecting with your whole self again. So thank you for bringing it up. I just have to laugh. But you did bring a good point. Um, I've taught yoga, oh my gosh, for decades. And one of the yoga poses that most people are familiar with, even if they're not a yogi or they haven't practiced, is tree pose. It's where you stand on one leg. I wish I had my camera a little further back, but I don't, and I can't move backwards right now. But you stand on one leg and then you bend, like you stand on your left foot and you bend your right knee and turn it out 90 degrees and place your right foot on the inner left calf, or, up here on the inner left thigh or across the thigh. And then you bring your arms up like this and you look like a nice tall pine tree, like right behind you. Okay. And it looks so stately and so easy and so serene. Try to do that after we get out of class today. Try to do that just for a few moments. Stand on one foot, even just lift the other leg, and then bring your arms up like this, or even out like this, like tree branches, and see how long you can stand on one foot without starting to sway back and forth and shake and eventually fall down and laugh at yourself. In class, I would watch people do this. And in class, everybody they want to do what the teacher's doing, and they want to get that because it feels good to be a good yogi. And the people who tried the hardest fell down the fastest. Why is that? Because when you try to control things, you set up resistance. When you try to control something, the human body's first response to needing to control something is to tense up. It's part of the fight or flight stuff, which is part of why we want to do this pineal gland stuff. We don't want to be in fight flight anymore. We want to be in creation mode. So fight or flight mode is more the left brain, which we talked about last class. Left brain really does have a great purpose, but we don't only want to be in the left brain. The control, the analysis, the aggression, if you will. When you allow, when you trust, even if you try, and you just forget about what you're doing and just be, you can hold this pose for hours. And I'm doing it right now. I'm just like right here. And I'm talking to you. I'm not like, oh gosh, is my knee bent perfectly? Are my arms up enough? Whatever. The harder you try at something, the more you block the information that's coming through that antenna. Am I communicating? So I'm not saying don't try at anything, because, hey, we're still focused on this 3D world, and you have to have some sort of inertia, and get some things done. You have to go grocery shopping. You have to take your wife's call on the phone. Okay. But when you can, if you can even just make an appointment with yourself every day for 5 minutes to do this, to just do one of these things, you will start to have more and more ease of ability to entrain yourself to that feeling state of peace, of, ability, without trying, without even thinking. And that's where the real magic happens, because when you get up off your cushion or your chair and you start to walk out the door to the world, if you can maintain that ease and grace, then the world is at ease and grace around you. But if you let it smack you in the face and you react and try to control the situation and say, oh, that woman cut me off in traffic and I'm going to get up next to her and I'm going to honk my horn and wave my finger at her, well, then you're just stirring the stuff up again, So thank you for bringing that point. Don't try so hard. And in this practice, don't try so hard. Have some fun with it. And if you get lost when you're doing alternate nostril breathing, laugh and then start over again, or get up and go do something else. It's all okay. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we're at just a moment after 2 o'clock, and I do want to get into the a little bit of information about how to take care of this beautiful cosmic antenna that's within us. And that also has, for those of you who weren't here the first time, you'll hear it in the recording if you haven't listened yet. It has the ability to enhance your physical experience as well in your body, because it is one of the king of glands as regards getting your chemical and hormonal states in balance. All right. That little tiny pea sized thing produces some of the most important hormones and chemicals for your body's optimum experience. And conversely, if we don't take care of it, or we neglect it and allow our emotions to tie us up, if you will, in knots about what's going on around us, that thing is at that little pineal gland is at our beck and call. It does exactly what it thinks we need, as judged by our emotional feeling state and our thoughts and our physical activities. So one of the reasons why I think it's super important to um, make yourself sit down even for 5 minutes, 1 or 2 times a day, hopefully a little longer than that if you go through this whole practice, is to get yourself more aligned where that little gland is in good shape. It's like lifting weights. If you don't do anything, we talked about this with the little scab on the knee and sitting around just looking at it till your body falls apart. Well, this is the same thing with your pineal gland. If you don't take good care of it, it's a lot harder for it to do what it needs to do for you to have an optimum experience in your life. Okay. So, Gail, did you have your hand raised? Did you need to say something before we go on?
Yeah. What you were just saying about the calcification of the pineal gland. Excuse me. I have a girlfriend who's bipolar,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of a chemical imbalance. And I was just wondering whether it's a possibility that her pineal is calcified and has been since very young.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a way of her clearing that so that the chemicals can come through.
Yes. Yes. And there's a lot of research out there now. We've had research going on for, that I know of, 40 or 50 years, really good research on how uh, getting the pineal in good, healthy shape actually assists us with chemical imbalances in the body, especially those things like bipolar or
Mm,
even schizophrenia. Um,
mm,
and, you know, some of the research is being done with certain drugs. Of course, they've been doing drugs research all the time, but now they're starting to do it with what we would call certain plant teachers, which we'll talk about in a second. The medicines that are coming through these ancient plant teachers, such as ayahuasca, peyote, um, and DMT, are literally produced in that pineal gland. If you do these practices, you will be giving yourself the proper dose of these things, where you're not going to be walking around hallucinating all the time and having visions. But like Andy said a while ago, he's having more, incredible dream experiences. It's all comprehensive. It brings things like melatonin, dimethyltryptamine, all of these, the endorphins, good, feel good, balancing hormones and other chemical cocktails cascading through the cells of the body, if you are able to do some of this stuff, and it will help. And to help decalcify this, and why we'll talk about calcification here in a second to answer, I can feel people asking, what does that mean? Um, the decalcification of this pineal gland It doesn't just have to happen by taking all these supplements and doing all these detox things and all this. The practice that I've been teaching you over the last 3 classes basically are excellent for breaking up the crust and dissolving away any kind of hardening of the case of the pineal gland so it can function properly again. And there are other things that I'm going to recommend. And I'll be sending you a ton of resource material when I send the recording out as well, so that you'll have this, so you can look at this stuff yourself and pick and choose for yourself, you know. But even just the basic practice, this breath work, um, the meditation, and a few other things will be very helpful. And it's always helpful. I don't care what you're asking about, what condition you're asking about, physical or mental, you know, whatever. Um, it's always helpful. It does not harm. You want to make sure, though, with the breath work, for some people, you know, if they have high blood pressure or they might have emphysema or something, they might have to go a little easier and a little less vigorously at first, but it can enhance. Okay. So thank you for asking the question. It absolutely can help. Now, for
Right.
people who are deep in the throes of like psychosis and everything, you know, those medicines that are out there, they might be helpful for them to kind of come into a place where they're actually able to physically do something like meditate. They may be so way out there now because the pineal is clogged up and other things. And their energy field is so full of pain and, how do I want to say, wounds that the person is still attached to, that they just need a little help. So I'm not saying no one should ever be on um, antidepressants or things like that. That's a kind of a last ditch effort when somebody's really in a hard place where they might need a leg up. For instance, um, you know, when I've also been a personal trainer, I've always, you know, been a fitness person and bodybuilder and all this stuff. So when you go to teach somebody how to do a pull up, you know what a pull up is? You grab a bar and you pull your body up and bring yourself up where the bar is here, and then you come up, and it's really hard. It's one of the hardest things you can do, learn to do, except for little kids. They seem to be able to do it just fine. But when I first try to teach people how to do a pull up, I might attach an elastic band, one of those workout bands, to the bar and have them put one of their knees or feet in that band because it's rubbery and it's a little bit pliable. And then when they pull up, the band almost kind of helps them get up. It doesn't do all the work for them, but it helps. And then they come down. And over a few weeks' time, they might feel like they want to try it without the band. Now, they might only get to here instead of here, but they're getting stronger, right? And then eventually they find they're able to do this. And then eventually some of them like attach weights to their body and they're doing it. So these medicines that people, I think, are way overprescribed, they're not bad, but they need to be used mindfully. And then once that person has a little leg up and gets a little bit of a breather, then they can start paying more attention to this stuff and not have so much spiritual ADHD as Ron was saying, you know. But yes, it's a good question. And I believe firmly, look at indigenous peoples. The very first thing they usually do when someone is going through a very hard time psychologically is to bring them in and do, you know, chanting and energy work and dance and sweats, and you know, they may even give them plant medicine so that they can have a jump start for those visions that is going to bring them into that doorway of open the doorway of perception, as Aldous Huxley used to say. I'm not here to be a proponent for drugs other than the drugs that we make in here. Everything we need is in here. We just need to be able to access it. So that's what this class is about, helping you access it. Okay. Okay. So we talked about, it was brought up, um, the pineal gland being, hang on just a second. It looks like, Rhonda, did you have your hand up?
Just one quick comment regarding the uh, outside chemicals in our body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just want to support your statements that absolutely our body is designed to make everything that we can take externally.
Mm-hmm.
And my personal belief is that our journey is to learn to access that through our body, not through external chemicals. It may show us the doorway, like, you know, Aldous Huxley
Right.
mentioned, but if we can learn it without that to even start with, it you're just leaps and bounds from my other experiences ahead of someone that thinks they need that in order to access those dimensions and those realities.
Yeah, I get
Oh,
invitations. Thank you. I get invitations all the time to go into ceremony with plant teachers with people. In fact, I've had 10 this week for Sunday and Monday, and I'm so honored when I get those invitations where people want me to come into a sweat lodge, or they want me to come in and do ayahuasca, or do a mushroom ceremony or something. But for me, because I experimented a little bit when I was a super young kid. I didn't do a lot of that stuff, but I experimented, and what I found was my experiences are much more profound and much more on tap by doing this practice rather than working with something outside myself. Because we brought in everything we needed to be able to accomplish this. We just forgot. So, what we're going to do now is talk about what is this calcification we're talking about that's surrounding this little tiny pea-sized gland. Um, the physical structure of the pineal gland is it is situated in the center of the brain near the top behind the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland is kind of, if you look here where they normally call the third eye, this is just the lens of the third eye, basically this point right here, the brow chakra. If you feel that right behind that, just about an inch or two, inch and a half, behind that is the pituitary gland, very important gland. Okay. And then behind that and a little bit up at an angle in the center of the brain is the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the only gland in the body that does not have a protective covering, like the blood brain barrier. Okay. It is surrounded by cerebral spinal fluid, and it just kind of floats in there like a little tiny island, which is awesome because it gets the information from everything. All right. Super accessible. The downside to that, if there is a downside, is that, especially in recent times, we have come to live in an environment that is very toxic, and we eat foods and drink drinks that are very toxic and breathe air that is very toxic. And the toxins, especially the heavy metals in the environment, go straight from however we're ingesting it, whether it's by drinking, eating, breathing, or even, from the skin, and it goes straight up there and it's concentrated there. It's not protected, so it's concentrated there. One of the big, once it concentrates, it causes a covering. It's like tooth plaque. It's like arterial sclerosis in your brain, in this little tiny pool of fluid surrounding the pineal gland. And so what happens is it's like getting a scab. It forms a hard crust around this beautiful little thing, and then it's harder for the information to come in and go out. So it still works. It's still extremely powerful, or you would not be alive. Okay. But the calcification, one of the biggest culprits is fluoride, because we have, most of us who are on this class right now grew up always having fluoride in our water and in our toothpaste, and believe it or not, in most of the foods that we've been eating for years and years and years. It's a byproduct. It's not the natural fluoride, like here, I think, I don't know if you can see this. It's hard to see. It's kind of light green. This is fluorite, R-I-T-E. This little crystal. It's fluorite. This is a natural mineral. It's a crystal, actually. Fluorite is a very helpful element in our world. It has energetic properties that are wonderful too, especially for the heart chakra. But fluoride is a substance that is brought about as the after product, as the end product, the waste product of the synthesis of aluminums and other heavy metals. It's used in things like petroleum processes. It comes about from, doing things with freon and things like this. Originally, I think, you can correct me on this, but I remember reading that the original fluoride happened when, or the big part of it happened when we started experimenting with nuclear power, and it was a byproduct of some of those processes, and they didn't know what to do with it, and they didn't want to throw it away, so they said, oh, let's tell everybody that it's helpful, and we'll put it in the water, and we'll put it in the toothpaste, and we'll do this and that and the other thing and make some money off of it, when there was very little experimentation done in that regard. And it just stuck. So you can research that yourself. We're not going to get into that discussion today. There are pros and cons against it. I do not use fluoride in my toothpaste, haven't for years, and I drink water that has had the fluoride removed from it. I drink water that has gone through a reverse osmosis process. And in the resources that I'm going to send you, you'll see a whole bunch on this stuff. But, I wish, and it's one of my bucket list things, to have a whole house filtration system where I'm not even showering or bathing in fluoridated water, because we're getting tons of that just through our skin. And fluoride is one of the biggest culprits for calcifying the pineal gland. It's also got a lot of other detrimental things that happen in our bodies, especially in our brains. But so fluoride is one of them. So reducing your fluoride consumption as much as possible. I will tell you, most processed, boxed, bagged, canned foods have some fluoride in them, and associated other products like calcium carbonate. If you're taking a hear me now, synthetic calcium supplement, check and see if it's known as calcium carbonate. If it is, it's a halide, just like fluoride, and it's not beneficial. It will go straight up there and calcify that pineal gland and all of the other little vesicles in your brain, and it's just not good for you. Try to get your calcium from natural, if you can, organic or non-GMO sources. And again, the resource stuff that I'm going to send you will have that in there. So processed foods, if you can get rid of most of them, I know you can't get away with all of it, especially if you're like Jesse, you may have young kids, you're going to make them some mac and cheese once in a while from the box. Sorry, it's just the way life is, right? You're going to feed them some Captain Crunch once in a while. But for the most part, eating whole foods, unprocessed foods, or lightly processed are best. Okay, clean foods that are organic or non-GMO. Another way is through the environment. It's really hard to control. You're probably getting it in the air. Definitely getting it from, the plants that are grown in fluoridated water and so forth. So you're going to get some of it. But this practice will help break up that calcification, especially the breath work, especially the holds in the breath work. Because when you're doing the holds, and those of you who haven't done this with us yet, you're going to do it in a little bit. When you take and do this breath work and then you hold the breath and you squeeze your pelvic floor and you squeeze your tummy in and you squeeze your throat and you visualize all that pressure going up, 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 up to that little tiny pool of fluid surrounding the pineal gland, it squeezes it. And it's like crunching an eggshell. Okay. And that crunches it up and helps it to break up. And then it rinses away, when you let go of the hold. There's more that happens when you do that breath work, but that's one of the reasons why we do it. That pressure crunches that hardened shell and helps to get rid of it. And if you do this every day, well, pretty soon it's all crunched up and there's nothing there, and it becomes stronger and it becomes less able to be calcified in the first place. The other thing that we want to do is to stimulate the pineal gland as much as possible. Now, an easy way to do that is to do headstands. How many of you do headstands every day? Show of hands? No? Come on. I don't do headstands every day either, but I do them. I still do them. But there is a stimulation of that spot up here, right at the top of the head of the skull, where you put a little, again, pressure. It helps. So even just a light massage with a little bit of pressure at the top of your skull, super stimulating for the pineal gland, and it will help. It'll help stimulate it. And when it's stimulated, it starts to send out signals that will also help crunch up any of that calcification. So if you can't do headstands or handstands, where your handstands, you're not putting pressure on the head, but it's very hard to do a handstand, go upside down sometime during your day. Some of you may even have, if you have bad backs or somebody you live with has a bad back, you might have a gravity table where you go upside down. Super good. Excellent. Maybe you're out playing with your kids at the playground. Get on the monkey bars and hang like you were when a little kid. Hang upside down for a few minutes, okay? Or lean over a swing and hang upside down. Or get over your couch arm and hang upside down. At the very least, especially before you go to bed at night, this is awesome for many reasons, do a yoga pose called Viparana Karani, which is legs up the wall. You just scoot your butt up against the wall, lie down on the floor, relax, bring your legs up the wall or onto a chair if you need to, but raise your legs higher than your head and your heart, and let some of that energy that's in your body, the blood flow, change course. When you're sitting up, standing up all day long, all the blood, the body pumps it back up, but it's hard to keep that up there. When you go upside down for a few minutes, you stimulate the pineal gland with that extra pressure from the fluids coming into your brain. The other thing is it really helps with your lymphatic system. It helps with so many things. It's a very, very helpful thing. And it's really helpful if you don't feel well, like you have a cold or the flu or something. If you can make yourself put your legs even up on the couch and just lay down and close your eyes, put your little eye mask here if you want, or a little pillow, and relax for a few minutes. Super good. Okay. So there are many, many other things that you can do. The other thing that we want to do is, one of the functions of the pineal gland is to produce melatonin and, as I said, dimethyltryptamine, DMT. And you're not going to get all psychedelic from this unless you really do a lot of practice, and you want to, you can. I have had those experiences, but in meditation. But melatonin is extremely important to the body and the brain. Melatonin helps you sleep. Okay? Melatonin is what sends the body the message it's time to rest. And one of the things that melatonin also does is it helps to regulate the sex hormones in the body too. And we don't have time to go into all of that, but you can read the stuff I'll be sending you, and you'll see why it's super important to have this little gland secreting melatonin and at the right time. So look around you. In the last 20, 30 years, everyone on this planet, even people in the jungle now and in the ghettos of the world, are plugged in to electronic devices with screens. Whether it's a TV or a computer monitor or a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet, or the 1,000 lit up billboards and lights, electric lights in our house, this light, we're constantly staring at it. And even since the invention of the electric light, we have messed up our pineal gland function because we like to have the house lit up at night. We don't like the dark. Most of us. I do, but it took me a while to like the dark. But if you are waiting till you absolutely can't stay awake to go to bed, and you've spent all that time during the day while it's light, and then all these hours at night with artificial light glaring in your eyes, the pineal gland sees that light and says, oh, we need to keep making more hormones and chemicals to help the person function, because it's not sleep time yet. It doesn't have a clock. It just sees the light, monitors the light, and says, oh, more stay awake hormones, right? So if you are using electric light and lighting up all of your rooms at night and not letting the body start to dim down a little bit slowly, as we did before we had electric light, as the sun set, we became sleepier and sleepier, and then we fell asleep, and then we woke up when the sun started coming up. Well, most of us don't do that anymore. And now we're looking at our phones. We're looking at our computers. We've been looking at our TV since we were born. And now many of us, because we love to read, are looking at our phones or our tablets because our books are on Kindle or digital form. And that light is coming into our eyes, and our eyes are sending the message to the pineal gland. And the pineal gland says, oh, there's still light. We're going to stay awake. No melatonin. So you might get exhausted and finally turn off all the lights and go to bed, and you might fall asleep for a little while, but you're going to wake back up because those hormones are still in there. Adrenaline, epinephrine, all of the things that cause you to be awake and ready to function in a waking world. And if you add to it all the stress that you couldn't let go of from the day because you didn't meditate or do some of the practice before you went to bed, all of that created all those hormones too. And so you're just like, it's like you're on speed all the time. You just can't go to sleep. And you wonder why. So to help your pineal gland function perfectly so that you can have these deep, beautiful sleeps, rejuvenate your body, let your brain rest, and, interact with the cosmos in your dream state or your out of body travels or whatever, start using the light right. And it's a practice. Maybe start by turning your phone off or your TV off 15 minutes earlier every night and just work your way back. 2 hours before you go to sleep is best. Do I do that every night? No, I can't. I just can't. I live with a husband who wants to watch a program maybe at night to wind down, or I want to read a book and I have my light on, or, a thousand other things. That's why doing this practice at some point during the day, specifically, especially early in the morning before you do anything else, sets the tone for the day. And it will send the messages to that pineal gland at the right time. And you'll start to remember, oh, maybe I should let's turn a few of the lights off in my house. Or if you have dimmer switch, start to lower it down a little bit. Okay. And if you're on the computer all day long, like a lot of us are, use some of the blue blocking filters that you can get for your screen, or get some blue block glasses. We talked about this last class. I'll send you another link to some of this stuff in our when I send the recording. But blocking the particular spectrum of light that comes from these devices, it's the worst for the pineal gland, and it's the worst for the body. It's why people are sick all the time. Their body cannot heal when it's trying to detoxify itself from this harmful emission of the wrong spectrum of light. It's too much. So, either turn them off or turn the light down. You can dim your phone, you can dim your computer, you can put it in night mode, many things. But that's why we want to do this practice too, because it helps to jumpstart that. Okay. So the pineal gland helps us hormonally to become very balanced in our emotions, and in our bodies start to react differently to the physical world in that way. But the esoteric function is that it opens up our consciousness to all the information in creation. And because we live in a quantum universe, everything happening all at once, forever, all the time, we can start to consciously decide what, cherry pick what point of non-local information we want to merge with, not be so random. Maybe you're a writer and you have writer's block, and you want a good idea. You want a good idea for that next chapter, and you've been trying so hard. Well, it's like doing tree pose. If you try really hard, it all shuts down. So if you start doing this practice, methodically, consistently, what will happen is the pineal gland will start to open up. That antenna will start to reach out, and it will literally pull the appropriate stuff down into your brain. When you least expect it, you'll get an inspiration, and bingo, you've got a best-selling book. Or bingo, you just remembered where you left your keys last week and you couldn't find them. Or bingo, you just realized the meaning of life. Who knows? But that's what it's for. So, I could go on and on about this, but we really want to do the practice and have an experience. And that's what I want to give you today. There's a lot more that I could cover. A lot of this was covered in the first class. So if you haven't listened to it before, I'm sending it to all of you again if you want it. I'll look in my chart and see who doesn't have it, and I'll send it to you. But you really need to have both parts. So before we take a little comfort break and actually do the practice and program ourselves to activate this beautiful little piece of technology, we're going to turn it back on, or we're going to turn it up for those of you who have turned it on. If you can hang for another 5 minutes, I just want to do a simple exercise with you. Are you guys okay with that? You good? Okay. Questions first about any of what we just talked about. I know I just dumped a bunch into your head. Okay. So before we do anything at all, I just want you to be open to this. We're going to do an exercise. Some of you may have done this before in some of your other walks of life or experiences. It's called the magic box. And I just want to see what we can see just right now, just kind of get a benchmark level of where we are. So here's a box. You can see I've got a rubber band around it so the top doesn't come up, but it is just a little cardboard box. And there is something inside this box that I would like for you to just kind of take a moment in a minute and see if you can focus and see if you can get an inclination of what is in this box. Now, I'm going to help you out just a little bit because it could be one of trillions of things, obviously. And I'm going to give you just a couple of clues so you can hone in just a little bit. What's in this box is a living thing. And it's not a puppy, I promise. I wouldn't have kept a puppy in here all this time. So it's a living thing. In fact, it comes from the plant kingdom. So it is a living plant, and it has lots of properties that are beneficial, and that's all I'm going to say about it. And so what I want you to do is I'm just going to hold it up here so that you can see the box, and you can gaze at the box and just get really relaxed and just see if you get any inclination of what's in there. And maybe some of you get a color, maybe some of you get a fragrance, maybe some of you get a form. If you want to draw what you're getting or write down, if you get words, or if you hear sounds, just take notes of what you're getting and don't try at all. And I'm just going to be quiet and let you go. We'll give you just another 30 seconds or so. See if you can get anything. Okay. So before I reveal what's in the box, how many of you felt like that was really hard, like you couldn't turn your mind off, or that you tried to, yeah, you tried to tell yourself, that wasn't it. No, that's not what I'm getting, or that can't be it. Any of you have that experience? Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you unmute yourselves and tell me what you got? Just a couple of you. Just say what do you
Green
think?
lavender.
Gail got lavender. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, the green lavender, yeah.
Got lavender too. Kathy got lavender. Josie?
I got a round yellow. I kind of kept seeing like a squash. I don't know how to draw, but this was my first one. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It was more like some squash yellow and round, fluffy. I don't know. That's all I got.
Okay. Anybody else? Ron?
Yeah, I got for whatever reason, and it stuck, and I bounced around, but what I always came back to for some reason is rose.
All right. All right. Did you get colors or anything, or did you discern rose just by knowing or fragrance?
Yeah, just by it was not thinking of red or yellow or white or anything like that. It was I don't know, just my first impression. That was the first thing that as soon as you said a living thing, that's
Okay.
that's when the thought came to me.
Cool. Anybody else?
I don't know, right at the beginning, I got a flash of a banana, which then became yellow. But I thought I was trying to intellectualize it. So I tried to turn my mind off, which was very difficult. And at the end, I got a little cactus flashed in.
Okay, Rhonda?
Well, initially I thought rose right off the bat. Then I said no, talked myself out of it, and I kept seeing like a silvery sage and mint. Between the two, it kept vacillating back and forth. And then there were hints of lavender, and I may have been picking up on some other people picking up lavender too. So
Okay. All right. Well, you guys, man, you're good. You're good because what is in here is a piece of lavender.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can put something dark up against it so you can see it. Of course, don't have the right thing here. Let's see. Let's see if I can put this behind it. So lavender, it is green. It's silvery green. It's hard to see, in this light. Someone said cactus. It's very prickly right now because it's starting to dry out. It's almost prickly like a cactus. 2 or 3 of you said lavender, so you were spot on. 2 of you said yellow like a squash or a banana, maybe 3 of you. This came out of my garden, and it was growing next to my yellow squash plant, right next to it. On the other side of this lavender bush was a sage plant and a mint plant. And I think a couple of you said rose. Right in front of where this plant was planted in my garden many years ago was a rose bush that eventually died, and I pulled it out. So almost every one of you, or every one of you who verbalized something, caught something from this living plant's essence. Isn't that incredible? And we haven't even done the practice yet. So how do you feel about that? Those of you who said lavender, you were spot on. But every single one of you keyed into something about this plant. And the reason why I like to use a living plant for the first part of this exercise is because plants have a very high level of consciousness. And it's literally emitting its consciousness. And it was trying to help you, I think. So, yeah, good job. Good show.
Deb, it's interesting, and I was just reading it again this last week, was about mycelium.
Yes.
Okay, which is the network that connects. Basically, it's like consciousness for plants.
Yes.
It's the fungal network that interconnects plants and sends messages and
Yeah.
and nutrients and everything else. It's it's really fascinating how that all works.
For those of you who ever saw the movie Avatar, which I highly recommend, you will see that network is the heart of their planet. It's the mycelium, and the beings who live there literally have tails. I think it's tails, right? They can plug into the mycelium network and interact with the plants on their planet, which I think is where we have the opportunity to do that here if we decide to stay here as physical beings, just on another level. So, yeah, thanks for bringing up the mycelium. A really good example of the mycelium network is an aspen colony. If you go to Colorado and you see all these aspen trees, it's not a bunch of trees, it's one tree with the same root system and the mycelium network, which is just like tiny little filamental roots, all entangled, quantum entanglement, and they're all interacting with each other constantly. It's the perfect example of the quantum nature of our universe. And it's a perfect example of what we're doing. What we're doing is activating this pineal gland here in just a second with our practice and switching it on and plugging it in to that network, the grand network. Great transition, Ron. Thank you.
Hmm.
So, how about we take if you can, a 5-minute comfort break? Run to the bathroom, get a sip of water, get the stuff you need to meditate, and we'll come back at, I have 2:50 p.m. Let's come back at 2:55 or thereabouts. And then we'll get into the practice and activate this sucker, okay? Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to ask people to come on back now if you can. And just turn your camera on or raise your hand when you're here so I know when to start. Don't want to start without everyone. Okay. And again, when you get back, either turn on your camera or raise your hand so I can see that you're here, and then we'll get started. Ron, those are some nice guitars you've got back there. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Ron. I can't hear you.
It's something I've always wanted to do was learn to play a guitar. So that's what I'm doing now. So it's one of my new things. I bought these about 4 months ago. So,
Beautiful.
yeah,
Are you
it's
taking
fun.
lessons? Are you doing self-taught?
Yeah, I go to a site called Ultimate Guitar and get songs, find the easy ones.
Hey, you have to start somewhere, just like
That's
this
right.
practice, right?
It's fun. It's a lot of fun though. I'm enjoying it.
Good. Music's another one of those processes that, lifts the vibration, and that pineal gland's going to get hold of that vibration and start to give you more of what you need to support that. That's the main message, is it gives you more of what is it perceives you need to support what you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if
Yeah,
it makes
and
you feel
with the
good.
guitar, it's interesting, and it's like when you get, you hit a nice chord or whatever, the vibration, the frequency, you feel it, you really feel it through your body. It's really very very cool.
Yeah, we know the quantum universe. We have quantum physicists have a theory called string theory, which says that the entire universe or multiverse or infiniverse is nothing but waves of energy, like strings vibrating, creating a celestial orchestra. And when everything is in coherence, it's very pleasant. And I'm sure you've hit a few clunkers in your time and trying to learn how to
Okay.
play the guitar, and it doesn't feel good in your body, right? But to
These
get
are 66-year-old fingers trying to play a guitar. Yeah, yeah.
get that beautiful chord that is
Yeah.
so perfect, and it just like their whole body feels it. It's wonderful. Cool. Awesome. Well, I think everybody's back. Yeah, so we're going to get started here if everybody's okay with that. So, uh, you can turn your cameras off or leave them on if you like. I'm going to leave mine on because part of the breath work, for those of you, especially who haven't been with me before, you might want to see it. And then we'll go into the meditation part, which is really what you're all hoping to make that connection with. So I'm going to turn on some special music that will help you entrain the brain, especially the pineal gland, to a specific uh, frequency, which is called theta. And theta is very helpful when you're trying to get into those higher states of reality. Okay. So if you have earbuds or headphones, you might want to use them, but it's not necessary. And I'll send you a link to this recording too when I send out the other stuff. Or you can use this part of the recording to do your practice with again and again and again, and it'll help. It's like lifting weights. You get stronger. Okay, so the first part of the practice, and we're going to do just one round of each. As I said before, for those of you who've been with me before, you want to build up to maybe 2 or 3 rounds of 1 to 3 minutes each round of these things. But for today, we're just going to do 1 minute of each because you're already so in from having listened to my monotonous voice for 2 solid hours. You should go in pretty quickly. Okay. So, everybody get nice and comfortable. It's most helpful if you're sitting up, but I know there are times when you're too tired or your body isn't feeling well, and you can do this lying down, but it's best done seated. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to do is a funny little thing that I was taught a billion years ago, and it's just uh, a short little double exhalation sound called ha. And just watch for a second. It's kind of like telling my brain it's time for the practice, it's time to meditate. So, what I do is I take a little breath, and then I turn my head to the left and I exhale twice. And then I turn forward and take a nice deep breath in, and I envision pure energy coming through my body up to my brain. So I do that every time before meditation or before a practice. So everybody do it with me. Take a nice breath in, turn to the left, turn back forward. And the breath that we take in here is called the resurrection breath. Good. And that's just telling your body it's time to practice. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give our brain, the left side of our brain, something to do, because it has to have something to do so the right side can start to become more evident. And we're going to just take a minute of breathing an internal mantra. It's not something you say out loud. I'm going to say it out loud to you so that you hear it, and then you're going to say it internally. It's called hung saw. You say internally the word hung as you breathe in for the full breath, hung. And then when you have to exhale, you say internally, saw. So you breathe in hung for the full inhale, and you exhale saw for the exhale. So close your eyes and just start hung saw. Just watch your breath. And internally, hung as you breathe in, saw as you breathe out. And we'll do that for a minute. Excellent. And then just open your eyes so you can see what I'm going to do. But the breath that we're going to do now, the breath work, is called breath of fire. And you're going to do it through your nose if possible. And I like to blow my nose before I start the practice or use my neti pot to clear the sinuses. So if you have a stuffy nose, you might want to blow your nose. But basically, you stay relaxed and you're going to breathe out and in with your nose. Don't get into my breath pattern. Stay in your own breath pattern. That's, again, give your mind, the left brain, something to do. Watch yourself. If you find yourself in training with my breath pattern and it doesn't feel comfortable, go into a different one. If you start to get a little too dizzy or get a headache, stop and breathe naturally with your eyes closed until I say come back out, okay? But basically, when we breathe in, we're going to breathe in kind of fully like this, and our belly's going to puff out like it's blowing up a balloon. And then as you exhale, you're going to pull your belly in, squeeze the air out. Okay? Try not to clench your jaws. Don't clench your butt. Don't clench your shoulders. close your eyes. We're just going to do it for a minute, and I'm going to ring a little bell when it's time to come out. When it's time to come out, keep your eyes closed and breathe naturally. And then I'm going to cue you to pull in a breath and hold it. And that's when we're going to squeeze that pineal gland and make all the little crystals in it start to turn on the radio transmitter, okay? Or radio receiver. So, eyes closed, begin breath of fire. All right, everyone, stop the breath of fire. Now take a deep breath in, as deep as you can. Fill your entire being up and then hold the breath. Pull your pelvic floor up, squeeze it. Pull the belly button into the spine, squeeze it. Pull your ribs in, squeeze. Tuck your chin slightly and squeeze, and tighten up everything and pull and hold and hold and hold and hold, and push that energy up, 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 and turn your eyes behind your closed eyelids up to the top of the head. Hold as long as you can. Hold, 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 hold. And exhale, relax. Keep the eyes closed. Breathe naturally. And then slowly open your eyes just so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to take your right hand. Sorry, I don't have a mirror image here. Right hand, and either just take thumb and pinky finger and close off your right nostril. Okay, so thumb on the right nostril, or you could put your first two fingers on your third eye and close off the right nostril. Either way. So you've closed off your right nostril. This is called alternate nostril breathing. And we're going to take a breath in through the left nostril. And you're going to turn your eyes up to look at that place, the brow chakra or the top of the head, either way with your eyes closed. So breathe in through the left nostril. And now with your ring finger or pinky finger, close off the left nostril, breathe out through the right. Breathe in through the right. Close it off, breathe out through the left. Big breath in through the left. Close it off, breathe out through the right. In through the right. Close it off, out through the left. In through the left. Close it off, out through the right. In through the right. Close it off, out through the left. Keep going at your own pace, eyes closed, looking up at the brow chakra or up at the crown chakra, the top of the head where the pineal is. If you get lost, just start over. Stay relaxed. Finish this round, coming back to the right nostril, and then keep the eyes closed and take a deep, deep breath in again. And as you do, hold and engage those locks: pelvic floor, navel, solar plexus, pull the ribs in, pull the chin in, squeeze. Keep looking up at that third eye point or the pineal gland, the crown chakra. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Sense the energy pushing up there, squeezing, putting pressure on the pineal gland. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then exhale, relax, meditate for a few moments. Right, without losing this stillness, with eyes closed, you can be looking up at the brow or the crown if you like. If you're getting tired of holding that gaze, let the eyes rest, but keep the eyes gently closed. Form an O with your mouth like you're going to drink through a straw. This is called sipping breath. And this brings the balanced left-right brain and male female energy into the center and brings it up to the pineal gland from the bottom of the spine. So you're going to make an O out of your mouth, and you're going to breathe in the cool air as long as you can. Makes a little hissing sound, and keep that O shape, but just let the warm air escape from that mouth without making much of a sound. And then when you breathe in, and exhale, keep the O. Now continue on your own. And then let this be your last round. And again, take the biggest inhale, eyes closed, looking up as you can. Pull it all in. And then engage those locks. Squeeze the pelvic floor, the belly button, the ribs, the throat. Squeeze everything. Tighten up. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Focus on the pineal gland. Breaking out of that hard shell. Activating. Opening up like a big radio antenna at the top of your head. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Harder, harder, harder. And then relax. Eyes closed. Meditate. as you do, stay relaxed, stay observant of anything that you notice, and just listen to the sound of my voice and the sound of this music, and maybe even notice the sound of your breath if you like, but let the breath breathe you. Relax. You can let your eyes relax behind the eyelids if you like. And just feel yourself starting to lighten, to feel weightless, perhaps floating or drifting. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. The purpose of everything is just to be. No body, no time, no environment, just be. No mind. You can utilize your imagination if you like, and see yourself moving up through your body, maybe through your chakra system, up, 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 just like the breath and the cerebral spinal fluid that we pushed up to the brain ultimately to squeeze the pineal gland. See yourself traveling up that channel. When you finally get up there, see that tiny little pine cone shaped island floating in the sea of light colored fluid. Looks like a pine cone with little petals that are closed. Move in closer and see if you can feel the energy coming from it, because the little crystals that are located in the center of it have begun to resonate from all the squeezing, from all the breath, from your intention. There's a vibration now starting to palpably emit from the pine cone inside your brain. And the petals begin to unfold like a lotus opening up. And as you relax and watch, observe, from the center of this beautiful little pine cone, there is a signal. It might look like a wave of light to you, or a beam of color. Perhaps you feel a vibration, or you hear a sound. Maybe it's a smell, a fragrance. However you perceive it, let there be a beam that is emitting from the center of this pineal gland that has now been cleansed and reawakened. And see that beam, that signal, move up and out of the crown of the head, expanding like a giant funnel, opening up wider and wider and wider out into the universe, out into the multiverse, out into the infiniverse, all dimensions, all frequencies. And then if you like, play with it a little, because you have not just rung the cosmic doorbell, you have opened up the stargate to everything. As you stay relaxed, but in a state of excited anticipation of something wonderful happening, set your intention to connect to any of the infinite non-local points of focus that are you, and be there now, riding on this beam of light. Be there now. What would you like to connect to? What would you like to experience and bring back to this focus? Remember, you can connect to any of the millions, billions, infinite iterations of yourself in creation in this way. Traveling at the speed of consciousness and fueled by unconditional love and self-awareness. Be there now. And if you're brave enough, find something to bring back with you, an energy, a technique, a message, an inspiration, or even a new friend. Be there now. Don't judge or analyze whatever is happening within you, even if it's just silence and blackness. Be with it. And then trusting that you have retrieved whatever it is you came to obtain or experience. Begin to intention yourself to be back in your human, third dimensional earth plane body, the one you just left a minute or an eon ago. Bring back with you the experience that you had with full remembrance, with full understanding, and with full gratitude. Pour yourself back in, but move through the pineal gland back into your body. And as you do, give it more energy from the cosmos. Really clean it up, polish it up, nourish it, turn it on, activate, activate, activate. And let it begin to function in perfect working order now, helping you to balance your body, your mind, your spirit, your world. And know that your body and your mind and your spirit are becoming coherent with the all that is. And you will move through your life with more and more ease and grace, with more joy, with more freedom and wisdom and clarity and love and abundance, more harmony. Because when you are coherent with all that is, everything starts to fall in place, as long as you don't try too hard. Pull it in, activate, and then let yourself now program yourself to remember to be consciously, actively caring for this beautiful piece of technology, but for your whole self as well. Be kind and compassionate in every moment, to be consciously self-aware at all times, mindful, in love with life, unconditionally love everything. And program yourself with the desire to continue this exploration daily, nightly, whenever you can, and to add to it as you feel fit, as you learn more things. Begin to tune your cosmic antenna in more and more and more. Then feeling a flood of love and peace and wholeness, oneness through your entire being. And intending upon transmitting this feeling out now through your heart center to all around you, always. Begin to come back into full resonance with this body, this mind, this environment, but as a harmonizing factor. Feel your bones coming back, your muscles, your organs, your glands, your tissues, everything coming back in perfect and harmonious working order. Begin to feel your body finding its gravitational weight in the arms of Mother Earth. And if you choose to wiggle your fingers and toes, or stretch your neck, or yawn, or swallow, go ahead and do that. And then lightly blink your eyes a few times and come back fully awake and present to the now. All right, and with your eyes softly open, we're going to go into the exercise one more time. I'm going to hold up the box again. Now that you've been deeply in, same box, but something different is in it this time. And this time it comes from the mineral kingdom. And again, without any judgment or analysis or forethought, just start to take note of what's coming. Colors, shapes, uh, properties, thought forms, anything. We'll give you about 30 seconds for this. You can either look at the box or close your eyes and search around in the cosmos for what this is. Okay. So you can unmute yourselves, and if anybody wants to share what they think it is or what you're getting from it, any sensations or information. Rhonda?
My first thing was a beautiful rose quartz color, kind of not completely translucent, but a bit opaque. And then I saw Merkaba. It's
Okay.
like a Merkaba form.
Cool. Awesome. Anybody else? Jesse?
I just wrote down, I kept getting sand. Like the first thing I saw was salt, like the salts, you know how they like pile up kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you said mineral, the first thing I saw was sand. I don't know, but the first thing I saw was salt, sand, and then a gritty, rocky, tan orange, and then a lot of points,
Okay.
like little, I don't know, it's like little bunch of specks. I don't know.
Points.
That's
Yeah.
all.
Anybody else? Gail?
So
Sorry, go on. I thought ametrine.
Okay. Did you get the word ametrine, or did you get the color or the vibe, or
It was a feeling.
okay. Perfect. Andy?
I got just deep blue, maybe purple, but just swirling, deep swirling sort of clouds of very rich deep blue. Amethyst was my sort of early thought, but I'm not hot on what's what crystal.
Okay. Perfect. Anyone else? Do you want to know what it is? Oh, Ron, did you have something?
Yeah, I just the thing that came to me was just color purple.
Cool. All right. So, again, you guys just wow me because of how bizarre this is. But what was in there was something I use in every session and every class and every meditation. And it is, I don't know if you can see it, it is a quartz crystal Merkaba. Gosh, I wish I could show it to you. So, Rhonda, you said Merkaba, and I think you said quartz. You said rose quartz, but it's clear. Jesse, you said points. You also said sand and salt. Where this came from was from a shop in one of my favorite places in the world, Santa Monica, California, and the shop was on the beach, and salt water from the ocean was very close. You could smell it, and sand was like everywhere. So you picked up on that.
Yes, I saw the salt figure. You know how you, not the soft one.
Yeah.
throat. Mhm.
like this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because I have two of these and bought them at the same time as this. So you're picking up a lot of communication from this little thing. Can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Ron said deep blue, or someone said deep blue. Um, it it rests in this deep blue packet, velvet pouch when it's not in use often. Um, it was sitting next to an ametrine crystal in the shop when I first met it. So there's you were getting that. Maybe it misses its friend. I don't know. I can't remember what else. Uh, the deep purple or blue. This is almost an indigo, Andy. This pouch. So it lives in this pouch. So you maybe have been picking up on that. And I can't remember much else, but yeah. How do you feel about that? Yeah, pretty good. Are you a little bit wowed at the fact that almost all of you, had some connection with both of those elements in the exercise, with the lavender and with the Merkaba, the quartz Merkaba? Very interesting. And that was a very truncated practice. But I just do those exercises to prove that you can connect non-locally with anything. We used to think just beings, we want to be with conscious beings. Well, everything has consciousness, including the rocks, including the sand, including the air. Lord knows what else is out there that we haven't any remembrance of. And I we've gone a little over time, and I don't want to keep you, but if any of you would like to stay for a few more minutes and talk about if you had an experience in that little short practice, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes. If you have to go, I'll leave the recording going so that you don't miss out. I do know, especially Rhonda, I know you've got your mom you're trying to take care of, and Jesse, you've got kids, and Gail, you've been up for hours in the early morning hours, and Andy, is it night where you are right now? It's night, yeah, deep night.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
I got kids are going to go to bed in a second, so I'm going to catch them. I said,
I hear you. I know I have family I need to attend to as well. So, but did anyone have questions or an observation during the practice, especially questions about the practice? Yes, Jesse.
Not really a question. Just this is, to be honest, I don't. The ones meditations I do is when I do participate. I've never, like I said, I've never really practiced, so I'm really learning. This is my whole learning process right now.
Awesome.
But I did want to say that all I saw was just like a smoke kind of cloud, purplish, and it just kind of like kept bursting kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's all I really saw, just like this bubbly purple like splash. Like I was going through this purpley bubbly stuff.
Yeah.
That's all that I saw there. And then the only thing I felt was light. Like if someone had erased the bottom of my floor, just that feeling. But that's about it.
Well,
So I just wanted to share that.
that's a
So
lot.
thank you.
I think in one of our classes, when we were meditating, Kathy, I think it was you who said you saw blossoming or blooming. I don't remember if you remember saying that. I think it was you. But what you experienced, Jesse, was what I experience in meditation often. And it's usually the first thing that happens behind my closed eyes when I do finish my practice and I go into deep meditation. It's like mist coming in, or colors, or sometimes I see geometric forms, or the more you do it, the more you'll get. And it's different every time. There are some similarities, but there's differences. So there's always a new adventure, and I think that's what keeps me coming back. So good work. All right. Anyone else before we let her go for the day? Did I wear you out?
Lightning question.
Yeah.
um, yeah, a lightning question. In that list of practice where you do the different breathing exercises, you said cycle through them and do it 2 or 3 times. Go from beginning. Do you think there's more benefit in spending more time on each individual exercise, say building that up, or going round and cycling through them all and spending shorter time on each one, or doesn't it matter?
The answer is yes to all of it. You choose. And you know what? I've been doing this, especially the breathwork practices and the Hong San and all that for many decades. And I might leave some things completely out for a while, or I might add some new things in. There's always new things coming in. So I'll just be real honest with you. My morning practice right now, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. I know most people can't do that. I can't do that unless I get up really early. So that's why I get up like 4:30 in the morning and I do my practice. When I don't talk myself out of it, and I still do sometimes. But experiment with it, Andy. Maybe make one goal, if there should be a goal. Make it a light goal of maybe I'll try to spend a minute with each one of these segments today, and then maybe I'll spend 3 minutes in meditation and see what happens. And maybe you do that for a week or two, and then maybe you decide, well, maybe I'll try to go 2 or 3 rounds with breath of fire and keep everything else the same and see how that happens. Be a psychic scientist and see what happens. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah. And the treat is you get those little drops of nectar, that purple smoke, that geometric form, that deep peace that passes all understanding, that sense of love. Your heart opens up and you just want to love and give to everybody some days. And then you walk out your room that you were meditating in, and the world slams you in the face, and you forget about it until the next time, and then you do it again. And it's a practice, not a perfect. So so thank you all so much. I do want to remind you, if you can be with us on Monday, if you can't, at least meditate sometime Monday, even for a few minutes, on bringing coherence to the earth and ascending past this level if it's good for everyone. Some people it's not good for yet, and that's okay. But the most of us really do want to get into the higher realms again and kind of leave all the ickiness behind or just the boringness behind. And so if you can do that without joining, awesome. There are literally billions of people meditating on the same thing that day all over the planet. So if you can't join us, if you can't join anyone, that's fine. Just when you first wake up in the morning, just intend that that's going to happen. Um, but the star teachers are going to be running this one, and so you'll be able to interact with them for a while too after they do the big meditation for the world. So, all right. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I love all of you so much. Thank you for your patience and your, oh my gosh, your attention and your energy. You're incredible. And the next class will be in a couple of weeks, and it is going to be tapping into your telepathy, not just telepathy, where you're interchanging all of the information with another person or entity or group or whatever. So you want to call it telepathy, you can, but that's the next subject. Okay? All right. Love all of you. Have a great day. Bye. Or a great night. Bye.